Hello. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Beyond the Frame. I'm your host, Joe Parente, and I've learned some of my most valuable life lessons from my favorite TV shows and movies. Easy for you to say. Sure, these works of art entertain us, offer us an escape, and even tap into our emotions. But Ryan, there is one E that's often overlooked.
Is that education?
It is.
Oh, it is
Well
educational. If viewed from a different perspective, these stories and their characters can really help us to learn and develop as human beings, Joe. I'm your co-host, Ryan Vanderhei, and it's our mission with this podcast to share these unique perspectives with you so that you can grow from the show.
The topic of today's growing show, it's the year 2000 cult classic film, High Fidelity, written by D.V. DeVincentis, Steve Pink, and John Cusack, directed by Stephen Frears. As always, there are going to be more than a smattering of spoilers ahead, so consider yourself warned. Also, why have you not seen this movie? Shy of 25 years in a coma, there's really no excuse. Be sure to leave a like, rating, or review wherever it is that you listen or watch, as it really helps us grow the show. So Ryan, shall we begin?
We shall.
The answers that you're looking for are lying just beyond the frame.
Ah, Ryan. The full display of male immaturity that is the movie from the year 2000, High Fidelity.
Oh, as it is ever.
I saw this movie when it came out in 2000, and I loved it.
Wow.
And I still have great appreciation for it. Yeah, we haven't talked about this movie at all. But
normally we have like a little bit.
Right,
of,
a little
what'd
bit.
you think?
But not this one. We're going in totally cold.
Totally blind.
So we're going to see. So I like say I loved it. I look over at Ryan. He's like, really? Okay, whatever. I did love it, but for entirely different reasons than I did in 2000. It's kind of hard for me to completely drop into, my head from 25 years ago because I was only 3 years old. But
you and me both, brother.
For you, that's true. But in 2000, look, this is semi-confessional, but I could relate much more directly to our protagonist, Rob, played perfectly by John Cusack. I thought he was
wonderful.
There was not a sour note whatsoever. But I wasn't really in on the joke back then because I was still like Rob.
You were still living it. Too close to the sun.
To a degree.
Yeah.
Not entirely, but enough, which is too much.
Yeah.
So this time I still laughed, but Rob's self-absorption and failure to understand what his exes were telling him made me squirm.
Okay, good, because that's exactly how I felt.
I squirmed so much. I squirmed because Rob missed the point so many times. I squirmed at his paradoxical propensity to ask poignant questions and absolutely misinterpret or ignore the answers because he was still viewing the world through the eyes of a 14-year-old boy.
Cha-ching.
And he told us as much.
On the head.
Okay, I don't get a prize, I don't think, but that it was. I really saw this very, very differently this time.
Interesting. Yeah, I this is my first time ever seeing the film, and I the entire time was so frustrated with him. I was like, "You idiot!"
Yeah.
Like, why can you peel back this like veil that you have in front of you?
Well, for most of the movie, the answer is absolutely not.
Yeah, sure.
But we're gonna get into that, y'all.
Yeah.
So this time I appreciate it for how perfectly, I already said that, but it's just how beautifully John Cusack played a flawed, sometimes lovable man-child.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I also really appreciated the other actors, and I'll get into that.
Me as well.
Right on. And I appreciate how real this movie felt.
Okay.
Because of how conversational John Cusack made it, and I'll get into that.
Okay, yeah.
I still love it, just for different reasons. And that leads to the questions that I have for this episode.
Oh, boy.
And that is, what don't I get? What don't I see about myself that's right there, staring me in the eye? Or that's lurking deep inside of me and will only come out when a woman or a friend or a stranger accidentally pushes that button? in me.
Yeah.
And will I have the guts to see or hear it when I get feedback?
Yeah.
Because we see Rob not getting it. He gets the feedback, but it doesn't get through.
Sure.
So before we dive into these questions, let me give a brief overview of the movie. And I think you've raised your hand. Yes, Ryan. Ryan, you'd like to say something?
Me. When you said that, it made me, I'm recalling back a previous episode where we talked about being in the moment, living in here and now, and not being here, right?
Yep.
And so, in relation to this film, I think that that what is it, Billy? What's his name?
You mean Rob? I'm sure he knew a Billy. I think he had an Uncle Billy somewhere.
It's your episode and not mine. Rob, excuse
Let's
me.
call him Rob for the sake
go
of
Rob
consistency.
for now.
Yeah, for now.
I'll forget.
We'll
in
call
30
him Billy
minutes.
later.
Rob is very much living right here. He's in the moment. Everything that happens, he's just here. It's just in front of him. And so, well, for most of it, he's not, because me, I don't really have those experiences because I'm so here. So I'm always extremely self-aware of myself and of my actions and of my thoughts and how I'm fucking things up, or I need to change this thing about myself, or they're right. And I didn't see that, but now I see it because I spend so much time here. So there's advantages and disadvantages to both.
For sure. It's also, that's part of what makes you who you are. It's part of what makes you the filmmaker you are. It's part of what makes this possible, because you are someone who is capable of self-reflection. And Rob is, to a degree, that's where the frustration can come in.
Yeah.
Because this whole movie is told in the point of view as a quasi-confessional.
Yeah.
To us, the viewer.
Right.
And so we wish that he were more introspective. I will say that he, to a degree, got there. To jump ahead of myself, and also I'm going to touch on the fantasy versus being in the body and being present thing.
Baby girl, that was the episode.
That was
okay.
So let me give a quick recap, just in case people who have seen the movie out there. I was like, I know I saw it, but what happened?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you. So Rob, played by John Cusack, as we were saying, owns a record store, Championship Vinyl. By the way, this was all shot in Chicago, and it was all based on things that were really there in Chicago. So he was the owner of a record store, and sadly, many of you are going to need to Google, what is a record store? Okay, stop that.
We've got young viewers and listeners.
So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, use the internet machine and find out what a record store is.
The internet machine.
So the location is Chicago, like I was saying, and I love how early on in the voiceover he says the location of the store was chosen to attract a minimum of foot traffic.
Yeah, what every business owner wants.
Absolute snobs.
A minimum.
Yeah, exactly. His partner, who melted my heart 25 years ago and did it again this time, played by Iben Jela. And forgive me because my Danish pronunciation is probably off, but she's fantastic. And she plays a lawyer of some sort and is, by all accounts, really cool and definitely more mature than Rob.
And her name is Laura, by the way.
Her name? Oh, did I not say that?
You said her actor name. No.
Oh, I didn't say Laura. Sorry, her name is Laura. Thank you, Ryan.
So Rob
appreciate
and Laura.
that. So it's Rob and Laura.
Yep.
Oh, just like the Dick Van Dyke Show. Anyway, I don't know that from personal experience. I read. Never mind. I'm not that old. Anyway, so the movie starts with their breakup and her leaving the apartment with some of her possessions, which I think is kind of funny because she kept coming back to get more. So Rob doesn't take this so well. The breaking up.
Not well at all.
And she hasn't even reached her car yet. And Rob turns to us. This is where he breaks the fourth wall over and over and over and over again. And he has already compiled in his head a list of Desert Island all-time top 5 most memorable breakups in chronological order.
Of course, naturally.
So we learn in time that making top 5 lists, mostly about music, is both a declaration of his perceived superior taste and knowledge, as well as a slam to almost everyone else's lack of taste and knowledge.
Right.
And it happens with great regularity, and it's actually pretty amusing throughout the movie, I think. And it's part of what gives this movie its character.
Sure.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
So Rob, I was going to say, was one of the biggest fourth wall breakers in cinematic history, but Ryan and I just did an episode on Nickel Boys. And there is no fourth wall. Like at times in this movie, there is. Wall. Yeah, exactly. At times in this movie, there is a fourth wall. But in that movie, there isn't.
What was with it at this time period? This movie came out when, 2000?
Yeah.
Or the 90s, the 80s, 2000. Like, this was kind of frequent. This kind of like, not frequent, I don't want to say, but just more often than it is today. You don't see a lot of fourth wall breaking today. Maybe Deadpool, but back then it seemed more, I guess, acceptable. I don't know. Was it a new thing?
Well, I can only really answer for this movie, and I can't answer why they did that in this movie.
Okay.
Because this is based off of a Nick Hornsby novel, and it is done in the first person in the novel. And so in order to find a way to creatively be faithful to the movie, this was the solution. I believe John Cusack. Sorry, other screenwriters, if it wasn't John's idea, but let's just say the screenwriters came up with the idea to do this delivery.
Got it. Sure.
To keep it as faithful to the original source material as possible.
I just think of Ferris Bueller. That's the first thing that happens.
Very, very true. And Nick Hornsby did not write that, but yeah, that is very true. And I thought John Cusack did it really well.
Oh yeah, he's a Golden Globe nominee.
Yeah, he was amazing. So anyway, Rob tells us directly some of the things he did, which may have led to part of why Laura broke up with him. By his own words, he's an asshole. So this leads him to ask, what's wrong with me? Seriously, what happened? Why am I doomed to get dumped? And thus begins his journey to reconnect with exes on his top 5 list of most memorable breakups and find out from their perspective what happened. Or as Bruce Springsteen called it in the movie, the good luck and goodbye tour. So I've chosen some poignant scenes to discuss the topic. So let's jump in.
Let's jump right in.
Let's do this.
Let's take a dive here.
Before we do, I have a question for you, Ryan.
Oh, I have an answer for you, Joe.
I love that. Have you ever had a breakup or falling out with someone and then reconnected years later and were able to talk it out and maybe see some of their perspective of what happened?
Yeah.
Discuss amongst you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Certainly. I saw somebody in the latter stages of high school into college, and things, didn't work out between us. I cheated. Okay. And that later, like years later, I came out to LA. A friend of mine called me out on like some of my behaviors towards women at the time, like telling them whatever they wanted to hear, things of that nature. And it really made me realize what I was doing and how I was acting and how I was treating people. I needed, like you said before in the beginning, why did I need a friend to poke me, to go, hey man, you're kind of acting like an asshole? And I went, wait a second. Yeah, you're right. Why didn't I figure that out myself?
That's a good friend who does that, by the way.
Sure, absolutely. Thankfully, thank God he did it.
Yeah.
But then I went on like a tour of like, just like him. I like reached out to all old exes and was like, wow, my bad.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I was kind of a dick, and I wronged you in this way, and I apologize. I'm not looking for you don't have to accept my apology, but I just wanted to let you know, like, I feel horrible for what I either said or did to you. And then some of them, came back with, yeah, no, I was going through something too, blah, 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 like whatever perspective.
Yeah.
And I just got a sense of like where we both were at the time.
Okay.
They were coming from this place, I was coming from this place, and how it just didn't work out.
I'm really kind of I don't know if impressed, but I'm impressed by that because I'm trying to think of. Look, I've done that, and it's something I'm going to discuss a little bit later. But I can't think of friends that I have that have really done that. And sorry to any of my friends who've done that. And like, Joe, I've told you 1,000 times. Sorry. Just I've conveniently forgotten at this point.
Right.
So kudos to you. I wonder, though, I wonder also if watching this, I mean, you could totally understand where Rob was coming from. Was it just a matter of his ignorance you found frustrating?
I think
his
me now.
Self-absorption? You're right. Okay, so if
Exactly.
you'd seen this movie like I did when you were
100%.
much younger,
Yes. If I saw this movie
you would have seen it
10
differently.
years ago,
Yeah.
I would have been like, yeah, I get it. I totally, all of it. I'm with Rob,
Yeah.
What the hell's wrong with these women? But me now, thankfully.
Yeah. Okay.
Is not that. I grew up a little bit.
Yeah, I guess we both
that's
did.
why that frustration came, because Ryan now in 2025 is going, you idiot, open your eyes, man.
So we were both squirming.
Exactly.
Funny if we'd been watching this movie together, we both would have been like,
Yeah, the house would have been
oh
rocking
man,
and rolling
oh
like
man,
a ship on the
oh,
ocean.
man. So,
Yeah.
but that's also the sign of a really good movie. That's the sign of effective, of good acting.
Pushing your button.
Because the buttons were, absolutely pushed. So the first scene I want to jump into.
Okay, so you're going to ask me that, and then you're not going to give any.
Well, what
Insight
I
to
what
you
I
at all?
said, I am
Are
going
you
to get
saving that
into
for
it.
later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I am saving that for
All right,
later.
all right, that's fine.
I'll just say that I get what you're saying,
Okay.
and I appreciate that. So I know
see.
you're like, wow, I lay my heart out there,
Yeah,
and you
what the
just
hell
keep
is this,
walking.
What the heck?
No, don't worry, it's coming.
Okay.
I have a confessional
I'm looking
section
forward to it.
ahead in this episode.
Can't wait.
So, scene one that we're going to talk about is Rob meets up with Penny, who was breakup number 2 of the top 5, played by Joelle Carter, who had a short part, but oh man, she was so good.
Memorable.
Absolutely. So she's now a movie reviewer. So she agrees to meet up with him. He goes to a movie with her. She's a movie reviewer. He was impressed with her. As he said, she's as beautiful as she was in high school and has really grown into herself. So he said, we have a good time. We hate the same actors and everything's going great.
Naturally.
And then while they're sitting at dinner, Rob, apropos of absolutely nothing, launches into his real reason for reaching out to her. And you kind of see the whole smile, fading from her. And you could see it. The camera is watching Rob, but there's a mirror behind Rob. So you can see Rob and you can see her expression at the same time.
Yeah.
So you can see her smile just dropping when she's like, are you kidding me? So
I thought this was lunch between friends.
exactly,
What the hell is this?
Exactly. So he tells Laura about how she wanted to, he tells Penny about how his recent breakup, Laura, the lawyer, wanted to sleep with Ian, as if, Penny would know who Ian is, but not him. How Charlie, breakup number 4 on the list, wanted to sleep with Marco from her design class, but not with him. And again, she has no idea who these people are.
Right.
And he's just rattling off all these names. And then he says to her, and you wanted to have sex with Chris Thompson, but not me. And this is where I thought, boy, did she earn her pay as an actress. She set him straight in a big way. She let him know that he broke up with her because, in his words, she was tight. And I loved the way she said that when she did it. It was oof. And she was really hurt by it. And with Chris Thompson, she said she was too tired to fight him off. And she said, okay, it wasn't rape. I said okay, but it wasn't far off. And she let Rob know this really messed her up.
Yeah.
She was saying, we were in high school, Rob. You're not supposed to have sex until you're in college.
Right.
And she said she really didn't like sex for a long time because she was like raped by this kid in high school.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And she said, and now you want to have a little talk about rejection? Fuck you, Rob.
Yeah.
I had to say that because I just saying F you just
Verbatim,
was not going to do it.
Yeah.
What was Rob's takeaway from this? it was painful to watch this time.
I'm telling you, man, the frustration, damn it.
It wasn't, I'll tell you, y'all who are listening to this or watching, first of all, what it wasn't. He did not show any remorse for how callous he'd been with her when they were young.
Mm-hmm.
His reaction wasn't sympathy for the damage that this kid had done to her by raping her. Rob's reaction after she storms out, he turns to us, breaking the fourth wall, and says, she's right. I broke up with her. I rejected her. I should have done this years ago.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man.
He feels cleansed.
Yeah.
He has no idea.
I
Like,
got validation.
Right.
Thank God.
No, zero regard for the woman who just stormed out. So
Yeah.
at this point in the movie, you're watching this thinking, this tour is going to be a freaking disaster.
Yeah,
and
because we're so, like, the movie's only 30 minutes in at this point.
Exactly.
I'm going, man, I'm going to hate this guy for 2 hours more.
Well, he showed, why you would want to.
Sure.
So he walks away feeling relieved. She storms out of the restaurant, nursing an old wound that Rob ripped open with absolutely no clue or regard for her well-being. It was... Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
I don't know how to spell that, but I think that was perfect.
That's good.
That's
That's a good reaction to it. I think all of us watching the movie are going, ugh.
Exactly. It was hard to watch. And
Come on, Rob, you can do better.
And I'm not giving too much away, but he does, but it's not, it's a long and winding road.
Sure is.
So, Ryan, why don't we just step away from that long and winding road and have a bad guy break?
Yes, cleanse me a little bit.
Okay,
Here.
all right, here we go.
Let's get a good bad guy going.
So, go back if you could, although you can't, to 1993.
Okay, 2 years before I was born.
We're talking about a film. I think you're going to get this because the genre, I decided to put the genre that IMDb had in here because I thought it was hilarious. Coming of age / stoner comedy.
Oh, man. I love that.
Starring Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, Dazed and Confused.
You got it. Dazed and Confused. I just thought, there's a little bit of Arrested Development going on in there.
Uh-huh.
And he's also endearing at the same time, frustrating at the same time.
Yeah.
Much like Rob.
Yeah. Perspective.
Yeah.
Is a bit frustrating.
Yeah, exactly.
Times, right.
Exactly.
Be cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was so good in that.
Uh-huh. I mean, that's what frickin' put him on
It launched
the
him.
map into the stratosphere.
It absolutely
became
launched him.
The rom-com king.
So the bad guy is I can't think of the character's name.
Matthew
McConaughey's character.
In that.
I can't think of his
what
name.
his name was. All right.
But
that's all you remember.
Exactly. But he was the bad guy.
I love that movie, by the way. Like Richard
Me too.
Linklater. I've seen that movie. That's a classic. I've seen it maybe 10 times. I mean, I go back to it every once in a while, just as like I don't even know if it's a comfort watch necessarily, but it's just vibes.
Well, it is, and Linklater he makes great films.
Yeah, he does. You're right.
He really does.
David Wooderson is our guy.
Got
our
it.
Matthew
That's
McConaughey.
who Matthew McConaughey played.
Good old David Wooderson. Yeah, do better, David. Do better.
So let's jump into another scene, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay. I had so many scenes to choose from that I had a hard time narrowing it down.
I mean, this movie. This is when I was watching it. I remember pausing it at some point, and I was like, "Holy shit! This is like a 2.5 hour movie, and it's a rom com."
Was it 2.5 hours?
It's over 2 hours long.
Oh wow!
Which is rare. Most rom coms are like hour 30, hour 40.
Right.
I was like, this is like a proper movie. Like this isn't your run of the mill little cheeky little romantic comedy. This has got some substance to it.
Well, and it does, and I think I appreciate what it did explore. And I ended up watching it because going back to write notes for this episode, I ended up almost effectively watching it twice because there were a lot of scenes that I marked like I want to go back to the 58-minute and watch that again.
Yeah.
And I watched a lot of it. And in going back with a lot of movies, you can say, why did they cut that? Like was that totally necessary? At least I feel that way. And this, I don't know. I didn't feel that way about this movie.
Sure,
I felt like every It's rare that I feel that. It's rare that I feel like a scene could just completely be cut. It is rare.
Yeah,
But
I mean these are final cuts for a reason.
yeah,
They've done
exactly,
all the cutting.
Exactly. So I felt like this, just brought it for the 2.5 hours.
Sure.
So I guess before we jump into a scene, Ryan, since you're like, what, you asked me the question and then you bail?
Oh yes, here we go.
I will give you a little reveal here about myself. So I had a period in my life when I was, I don't know, a bit slutty,
You sure?
maybe.
Yeah.
And I did know some really fantastic women during this time. And I will just say that I was careless with their feelings.
Totally.
And it was many years later when I got myself into yet another bad situation with a woman. And she called me on it.
Ooh.
And it had a really profound effect on me. So I took several weeks looking really hard at myself. I started this particular journal on the computer I had then, and I called it The Real Joe. And I just thought, I'm going to put out here what I don't even want to admit to myself about myself.
Oh.
And did the pages flow. They really, really, really flowed at me. And I did my best to look at how cavalier I'd been, how just careless I'd been with the emotions of some of these great women that I knew. And so I did what you did. And for very few did I reach out directly, because I think most of them would have told me to F myself. So I wrote letters.
Wow. Okay.
To them.
Okay.
I took the time to write them out carefully and send them out. And because the way I figured they'd want some space to process my words in private rather than to my face.
Okay. Yeah.
And perhaps, and I was also giving them the ability to, if you want to have a call, I'm happy to do this.
Sure.
So I did get some replies. Most didn't.
That's fair.
And it was a painful process, but one that I will never repeat because I don't have to.
Sure. You and me both, brother.
Yeah.
We're not so different, you and I, it turns out.
It is quite true. We've known that all along in a way.
Yeah.
But every time we do these episodes, we find that that's
reveal a little bit more.
That's more and more true. I will say also, I've been on the receiving end of that one. I had an ex call me.
Oh.
And I'll never forget where I was. I was just driving up to my parents' house. It was 101 in Marin, just past the Golden Gate Bridge. And I get a call on my cell phone. And this is back in the days when you'd answer the phone, even though you didn't know the number.
Sure.
And it was this ex of mine from years before. And she just said, I really want to apologize. I was kind of horrible to you. She said, I'm going through a divorce now. And in looking back, I saw, it was a pretty short phone call. I really appreciated that she did it. Yeah. I thanked her, and we both wished each other good luck with your life.
Yeah.
It was a, good luck and goodbye to her. Like she, Bruce,
sure.
Bruce
best of
said,
luck.
Yeah.
Kudos to her.
Totally
Kudos
agree.
To you for having the perspective to, after you got that little nudge from that girlfriend of yours or girl at the time, woman at the time, to, as you said, the real Joe. I mean, that takes a lot of guts to go to that place with yourself, and then again take action because you can feel that way, but then not take the action to write those letters and to send them out and like the same perspective you have is maybe hopefully what they had. That I really appreciate this, even if you don't get a reply.
Right.
But just reading it, just knowing you've been validated, that you're not crazy in the way you felt, that it's nice to feel seen, heard, and respected, because that's what you did, essentially, in that moment.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of your ability.
Yeah.
You can't make up for what you did. It's
That's
in the
right.
past. It already happened. But just by reaching out, the acknowledgement of, hey, I fucked up.
Yep.
That's on me. I apologize for what I did to you. That can move mountains, man. That can make somebody feel like, a breath of fresh air.
I hope it did have that effect. I had no expectations that anything would come back.
Same when I did mine as well.
And so, when the few did, I was very thankful for that, because quite frankly, all of them showed grace that I didn't quite possess myself.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
Yeah, so thankful for that. All right.
Love that.
So let's jump into a scene, shall we?
Shall we?
Here's the one I picked. Well, one of several. So Rob meets up with Laura's friend Liz, and Liz was played by John Cusack's real life sister, Joan Cusack, who is brilliant.
Joan is so good, man.
She's so
I always
good.
loved her.
I actually found myself just rewinding, and because her face is so expressive.
Yeah. She always has
just-
had that
I just
look.
love
Yeah.
it. So they're having a meal, and Liz is in on the scoop. Liz works with Laura, Rob's ex. So she's friends with both. And she was saying she didn't want to pick sides. But once she heard Laura's perspective, she was not too happy with Rob and let him know that.
Yeah.
So this is after she'd let him know that, and things calmed down a bit. And she asked Rob what I thought was a great question. Rob, why do you want Laura back so badly? And he doesn't or can't answer her. And at this point in the movie, he's made it very clear that he wants Laura back, but he has no idea why. Yeah. At least not yet.
Right.
Up until this point, everything was about like breakups to him, and even mentioned this when Laura first left the apartment at the beginning of the movie. He referenced humiliation.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw it this time watching this movie, I'm like, humiliation? Like, that's an interesting, you could feel, but I just thought that's so fascinating because it's just about his ego being dented.
Sure. Yeah. That's the angle he was taking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
me.
Totally. So just kind of put a pin on that one. I thought that was that was part of his turning point.
Sure.
Rob is he's glib and bright, and he's got a lot of words for things. He says that he's not so smart in the movie, like smarter than some. He's clearly a very bright dude.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And he had no answer, and I loved that.
Yeah.
I love that she stuck him with that question.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next scene. Next one was Rob had already gotten back together with Laura at this point, and he met a magazine reporter.
Yes.
And despite living with Laura again, he gets a crush on this magazine reporter. So she covers the music beat. I think she wrote for a music magazine.
Yeah, they clicked right away.
And they did click right away. And you could tell that she was his jam.
Yeah, he was vibing. He was into it.
Yep.
She was as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, mutual feelings.
So he finally has his gestalt moment while making this other woman a mixtape. And Laura is not home, and he turns to us, again breaking the fourth wall, and he yells, "When's this gonna stop?" And right then Laura comes home.
Yep, perfect time.
And she's like, when's what gonna stop? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Laura goes into the kitchen, and I don't know if you noticed this, but she knew what Rob was doing.
Oh yeah.
So she's taking the groceries out of the bag, and you're watching her. She goes, "Who are you making the tape for, Rob?" And she just looks to the side like she's really listening. You know, it was very subtle, but I really liked that.
Yeah.
And he goes, nobody, this girl who interviewed me.
Right.
I think he said girl too.
Yeah.
And you see, we're just looking at his face, and he's looking. You can tell Laura hasn't turned around, and he's just like, it's starting to dawn on him.
Mm-hmm. Here we go again.
So the next part, that scene leads to this scene, which is Rob out walking, and he's talking to us again.
Yep.
And he said he's wondering if he's going to jump from rock to rock for the rest of his life until there aren't any rocks left.
Mm-hmm.
The next scene I absolutely loved in the pub.
This was her reaction is what I loved. This was so
Her reaction was fantastic.
Yeah.
He proposed marriage to Laura, and he tells her that the other girls are just fantasies and that she's real.
Mm-hmm.
And this harkens back to Baby Girl.
Oh,
and
baby.
something we were talking about.
I love it.
Because he says that all these other girls, he's explaining to Laura why he wants to be with her.
Mm-hmm.
All these other women are fantasies.
Mm-hmm.
And she's real.
Yeah, because he says, I can see them Like they don't come with the baggage.
That's right.
It's just a fantasy. They're just like, they're hot or they're this or that's all I see, and it's just like a hookup or whatever. But he says some specifics about like they're gonna leave their clothes out and they're gonna like all the stuff that's like real people.
That's
like,
right.
That's a real relationship.
That is a real relationship.
Yeah.
And he has just had the
Epiphany.
perspective. Right. He had the epiphany, but first he had the perspective of the real life being a drag, a day-to-day being a drag.
Yeah.
And one of the things he said to him is, I get tired of all of them, but I never get tired of you.
Right. Sure.
He actually then, in between what I was talking about, when he was saying, am I always going to be jumping from rock to rock? I was going to put this in here, but there's so many things. He did make the top 5 things that he loves about Laura.
Yeah.
That was so good.
So good. Such a great
And
moment.
y'all got to watch the movie for that, because I'm not going to recite them from memory.
Sure.
But what they showed was that this guy actually does have some depth, because for someone to appreciate those things in someone else, they've got to have the eyes to see it.
It's deeper. It's deeper than the surface level, yeah.
That top 5, it was one of the times in the movie where I just thought, now I can see why she'd love him. Because throughout so much of that movie, I kept like waving my hand, take me, Laura. But I wondered, like, I can see he's charming.
Sure.
But when he made the top 5 list of the things that he loved about her,
You're like, oh, okay, I get it now.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah?
No, yeah, 100%. That was one of the first kind of moments, and his realization about like, am I going to just keep jumping from rock to rock? I was like, that's profound. That's self-reflective. That's introspective. That's what I wanted.
That's right.
That's what I kept.
That's
so
right.
Frustrating.
And the reaction that Ryan was referring to earlier is when he said, I wanted to talk to you about marriage. I mean, she laughed.
Yeah, and then the way she leaves it is, well, thank you for
She
asking.
said, thank you. Thank you for asking.
And the scene ends.
It's so good.
good.
And that was so spot on.
Yeah, it just was perfect.
It was perfect. I mean, I think watching that scene was like, wait, she just said thank you and that's it?
Yeah, you're going, what happened?
But that
makes sense for her character and their dynamic.
And their dynamic.
Yeah.
He could appreciate that she was laughing at him for proposing marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny. Like,
100%.
really? But what he had to say, it got in there
Absolutely agreed
with her.
She heard it.
She did hear
She
it.
saw it. She heard it. She felt it.
Because one of the things he said was he's tired. He's tired of thinking about this stuff. He's tired of fantasizing about other women.
Yeah.
And when he said that this is real,
So poignant.
that I really, really, really
Absolutely
liked.
I loved it.
It took him this 2.5-hour movie to get there.
We got there eventually.
He did.
It was a bit of a roller coaster.
It
but
was.
He
So
came around eventually.
Exactly. So I just want to, I love how Rob got to where he did.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had much more appreciation for it this time than I did 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I love how Laura was with it. Again, she melted my heart then and now.
Yeah.
God.
She was great.
And the love I have for this movie now is a different love.
Yeah.
I'm going to say a real one.
Yeah. Love it. Love that circle, full circle moment there.
Yeah. I was really,
Perfect.
I dug it. Did you enjoy it? Oh, wow. Interesting.
I think I don't really enjoy the fourth wall breakage.
Okay.
It's
I
got to
wondered
be
about that for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got to be. I like Ferris and Deadpool and
Nickel Boys.
yeah, Nickel Boys is kind of
That's
in a different way. They're not
Right.
talking to us, the audience.
That's true.
And
That's true.
They are, but not in this way.
No, very true.
We're like a direct, so I think it felt long, and it felt I didn't care for the fourth wall breakage, but I loved John Cusack, I loved Joan. Can we talk about Jack Black for a second? He is
I know I didn't even bring him up yet.
He's my favorite part of this movie, without question.
Well, he was. I know. It just he didn't go along with my theme,
Of
so
course.
that's why I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
bring him
No,
up.
100%.
But what Ryan's talking about is
He worked at the record store.
He worked at Rob's record store.
And he was so damn funny.
He was, and I looked to see if his lines were improvised, and I couldn't find anything about that. But I don't know, because my God, did he bring it home? He was Jack Black being Jack
so
Black.
alive, you know.
He was so
animated
alive.
and yeah, he's just great.
He was fantastic. It looked like he was having a really good time.
He sure did,
You know?
and I'm sure he was. And he gives us a sing at the end. He gives us a solo performance.
And we could tell that is, well, we know that Jack has a voice.
Yeah,
So
and he shows it off.
and I loved how that ended.
Absolutely, you and me both, brother.
I appreciate your assessment of the movie too. I think part of why, this is almost me asking, what don't I see? Like I wanted to hear how you thought of it with, fresh eyes, seeing it for the first time.
Yeah, sure.
And what you're saying to me completely makes sense.
Okay.
I just wondered how much of me really enjoyed it for like nostalgic reasons.
Sure. Sure.
And
fair.
could I look at it really objectively this time?
Yeah.
I did the best of my ability. And I really appreciated
it more this time around.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay, that makes sense.
So Ryan, I'm going to throw out some recommendations.
Perfect.
So first one, it's it's another based on it's about a boy.
Okay.
So Hugh Grant it plays another Peter Pan character.
About a boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just thought it was really well done.
Interesting.
And Nicholas Hoult.
He's having a year
when he was a
man. I
lad.
love him.
Yeah, and he's great in this. You can see that on Amazon Prime.
Perfect.
The next one is Almost Famous,
I love this
starring
movie.
Billy Crudup and Kate Hudson, and that's on Paramount Plus. Number 3, Garden State, which introduced the world to the band The Shins. That's starring Zach Braff and Natalie Portman. That's on Hulu or Amazon Prime.
Alrighty.
Number 4 is This Is 40. Paul Rudd. This is a
love this
Judd
movie.
Apatow.
Judd
Yeah,
Apatow.
and Leslie Mann. That's on Netflix
They're
and
great.
Amazon Prime.
They're great.
And then if you want John Cusack meet cute, if you want that, Serendipity.
Classic.
So John Cusack and Kate Beckinsale, and that
Classic.
is on Amazon Prime.
Can't go wrong. Wonderful recommendations, Joe.
Thanks, Ryan. So
Love it.
let's wrap this up.
Let's
and
do it.
I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. Remember, as always, you're the main character in your own life. So don't be afraid to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because sometimes the answers that you've been looking for are lying just beyond the frame, like my hand. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.